Another example is a plane crash. Often when someone sees a plane crash on TV, I mean, it's a tragic thing, it's horrible. Uh, they don't realize that there's 64 million flights take off and land in the United States approximately every day. And flying is a lot safer than driving in your car. But because they've seen this one accident, they don't reconcile the R complex. The reptilian brain doesn't.
Oh, so this is what you mean by
Quantitative, yeah.
quantitative. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Also, they do the same thing with news about terrorists. Now, your chance of being killed by a terrorist in the United States is pretty slim. I mean, there were a little over 2,000 people killed in the last 40 years. So, chance of being killed by terrorists is, way below things like bee stings. And but because we're exposed and we're told all the time, and our reptilian brain hears this terrorist, terrorist, terrorist,
Hmm.
we get behind efforts to keep us safe from terrorists.
Sure. Well, and I guess that's part of what TV is designed to do is have you identify with the characters, with even the victims of crimes, because you are in that state and you're hearing about it. It's in your life. It's a part of what could happen to you.
Right, right. And they do the same thing with programming when they show violence. I think one thing there's been a lot of tests done with children and the effects of violence on TV on children.
Hmm.
And it makes them more aggressive. It's as simple as that. It has the same effect on adults. We
Mm.
become more aggressive. And I think also we become desensitized to it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing to me, I think, is that desensitization.
So we're hypnotized
Hmm.
and we're being fed with
Desensitized.
violence. We're being desensitized. And
And entrained into the hive mind.
right. And it all happens by law. In 1977, Ronald Reagan again, I guess he's the star of our show today. Ronald Reagan signed into law, or a directive, it's called Directive 77, that gave the CIA and the government, um, they had to have the government approval before they could produce a news story. So before, we're always complaining about the mainstream media.
Hmm.
Well, the mainstream media is controlled by this law. Things have to be controlled by the Army and the CIA. And it
So,
happens the same thing with movies.
so
They're
the
not going to.
news that you're getting has been first approved by the controllers who want you to believe a certain
Right,
set of
right.
circumstances. So you're not really getting the news. You're
No,
getting
you're
the news
kidding.
that they want you
They
to have.
want you to know, yeah. So you're not going to hear too much about white collar crime or crime in the government. You hear about street violence and blue collar crime. You don't hear about Fukushima, which is a lot more dangerous right now than any terrorist, right?
Right.
But it's just not on there. And what they do in TV news is they do investigative reports. Now, if it's mainstream news, how investigative can you get when it has to be, you have to, have the government approval before you can release it. So normally what they do in the mainstream media is they'll go and they'll get the story from the government, and that's the investigation they do, and they do a report on it.
Mm-hmm.
And these reports invariably leave you with some kind of coming up threat on the horizon. In other words, they talk
Um,
about it, but watch out because, don't relax yet because.
right. Well, they want to keep you in a constant state of fear because you're much more controllable if you're in a state of fear.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. They want to keep you in a state of fear. And one of the things that they do is they use this thing called the startle effect. Now, I don't know how far I went into this before when I mentioned it in the beginning of our podcast, but um, when they shift scenes, I mean, when they shift shots, I guess it is, in the vernacular. I don't know exactly. I'm not a movie producer, so I don't know exactly how they'd say it. But you're looking at his left side, and then you're looking at his front, and you're looking at up from the bottom, and you're looking down from him, and the scenes and they shift back and forth, back and forth. Well, the reason that it's very difficult to watch a movie that was made in the 30s and 40s is because they don't do that. It's been speeding up and speeding up and speeding up all during my lifetime. Now it's rapid. Oh, but don't do. I think it's split seconds. They switch scenes.
I can hardly stand to watch it. There was a time like the old 40s movies move much too slow.
Right.
But I loved the movies in the 50s and 60s, watching them today. They're so much calmer and
Right.
easier to watch.
Well,
They're
that's
not
the
as,
idea. The idea is to startle you. And you go through this thing called the startle effect about every 10 seconds or so.
Mhm.
So here's what happens in the startle effect. Your sympathetic nervous system, again, your lower brain and the R complex, gets stimulated. So they secrete cortisol and adrenaline.
Mhm.
Well, adrenaline's addictive.
Mhm.
So you're watching and you're being startled. Well, after a while, your higher brain kicks in, looks around and realizes that, you're just watching TV, there's no real threat, and so it flushes cortisol and the adrenaline out of your system. And this is great, and this is how the animal's supposed to, maintain its equilibrium. It's afraid, but then it gets flushed out when it calms down. But the thing is, if the startle effect is happening every 10 seconds, it just keeps startling you. And after a while, the higher brain stops playing.
Mhm.
So there you are, full of adrenaline and cortisol, watching fear-inducing violence, just getting you hyper and hyper, more and more hyped up on this drug trip you're doing. In addition, of course, to the endorphins that are being secreted all over your body because of the fact that you're watching the ray tube.
Well, what about if you're not watching violence, you're just watching sports, for example, or you're just watching an old romantic historic movie?
Well, I think the whole idea of TV is stimulation, isn't it? I mean, doesn't sports stimulate people? And even if you're watching a romantic comedy, don't you get tied up in, oh, I wonder if she'll get him back. I wonder if that'll be fine. And with this scene changing
Hmm.
going on all the time. But actually, I don't know, I'm not even sure they make movies like that. Every movie that I see that comes out seems to be a monster movie. It could be
Keep
comedy.
us all really afraid all the time, all fear all the time.
Right, all fear, all time network. I don't know what it would be. So after you watch, I don't know what the normal person watches TV. I would imagine they watch probably 4 to 6 hours in the evenings. I know that Americans watch more TV than any other country. But you can imagine watching about 4 hours of TV with this flicker effect being in your subconscious mind, having downloaded massive amounts of violence and stimulation and sadness and uh, what they are peddling off as news, and that's certainly fear invoking also.
Hmm.
So you
Or put
sit.
you in a state of yearning for that wonderful life that the
Oh,
characters you watch on TV have
that's
that
the
you
whole.
don't have.
That's the whole idea. That actually goes back to when we were talking about uh, quantitative reconciling. You know, after you watch, you know, 30 women on TV with beautiful bodies and uh, huge eyes and just charming ways about them, and then you get up to go to the bathroom and you look at yourself in the mirror and I mean, you can't reconcile it. Why is everybody so beautiful? And I just looked like another person. how does that work?
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, and you see these guys with their shirts off and they have the perfect abs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's genetic myself. I don't know how someone gets to look like that, uh, but it must be genetic. In addition to that, you're sitting there, you're watching these guys with perfect abs. In addition to the fact that one of the effects that cortisol has on people when they get massive amounts of cortisol, which you do when you're watching TV,
Yeah.
well, it gives you the couch potato belly.
Oh, is that like the beer belly?
It's like the beer belly. So you're sitting there, you're watching these guys with perfect abs.
Uh-huh.
You can't get your abs to be that way. In addition, while watching them, the TV has the effect of making you a pot gut.
Oh, great.
So
Keep you in a constant state of yearning and discontent.
absolutely, they've got you coming and going. You can really.
Well, that way you can go out and buy the products that they advertise to make you slimmer and more fit and sculpted.
That's right. Well, that's the whole idea of it,
Yeah.
is to sell you stuff. So anyway, what I was trying to get to before, you watch hours and hours of this yearning for something else, um, and then you get up and you get in your car, and you're driving along. You've got endorphins, you've got adrenaline, you've got cortisol, you've got 4 hours of violence. You've probably witnessed, I don't know, 150 killings. Um, you've been tense. Um, I can't even imagine what that does to society. I mean, I'd hate to be the guy selling at the 7-Eleven when you walked in at 11:30 after watching TV since 5. You know, give me a goddamn Slurpee and make it fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it really sucks.
It really
It doesn't
sucks.
make for a very good society.
No, and I think another thing that happens, I've never seen a test on this or a survey or anything, but I think after you watch so much of this in the evening, you take it to bed with you.
Yeah, it goes into your dreams.
It's in your subconscious, it goes into your
Hmm.
dreams, and of course your reptilian brain doesn't know what's real and doesn't know what isn't real.
Hmm.
So you could find yourself, really, really in a mess.
Well, then you can just get up the next morning and turn on the morning TV shows and get a new
That's right.
dose.
I had forgotten that they do that.
It's not just the evening TV
That's right.
shows.
They do the same thing.
Yeah.
You get your news, of course, is written and edited by the government, and it's delivered to you in this over this media that totally has you hypnotized and in control,
Mhm.
and there you are.
Well, that way you
You're
can start your day very well informed.
right, very well informed. You can drink your 2 or 3 cups of coffee and
Hmm.
get out there on the highway
Yeah.
and keep your motor running.
Hey, Paul, let's tell everybody about that incredible interview we watched last night on YouTube. It was called Television Mind Control, Black Magic, Sigil Magic. They are altering your mind. It was so fantastic. It was Janice Marcello interviewing John and Bonnie Mitchell. And boy, they have done an incredible amount of research into television and the effects of television. I'd recommend this for all of our listeners if you want to get a little deeper into how this television is affecting you. They also have their website is awakenedvideo.org, pretty good website. And
I think we should hook that up to our website
oh
so
yeah,
people go to our website.
that's a great
They can
idea. Maybe
find it.
we'll put a link on our blog pineconeutopia.yolasite.com. We'll
Good
put it
idea.
on
So we can
there.
get people over to that.
Okay, cool. We can keep learning.
Yeah, I don't know how their content would conflict with your ego's beliefs, but I thought their information was really valuable and right on target.